Well, here we are, one day down and four to go to this work week, and we've got summer weather, we've got severe weather, and some really strong thunderstorms move through Connecticut and Long Island and southeastern New England late this afternoon and this evening, and we'll tell you about that. We'll see where we're going for the rest of the week. Take a peek at the Labor Day holiday weekend, and who knows what else we'll talk about here tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use that coupon code.
I wanted to see what you would do. Summer 2024.
If you do, you will get a cut
You'll
and
get
pay.
10. What? Excuse me?
A cut and pay.
A cut 10 for we get paid for doing this? 10% off, Joe. 10% off.
Correct. Uh, Hi to everybody on the chat board, and those of you who are not on the chat board but feverishly lurking in the background. We welcome you to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're on Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's some storminess around. Don't think we're going to have that problem this week. So subscribe, turn your notifications on, and of course, if you like the show, hit the like button. I'm wearing a sweat.
Happy National Dog Day to you and JJ, by the way.
Yes, thank you. He's lying on my bed crosswise, so I can't even get into it when I'm done. He doesn't stay when I go into the bed. He gets off. He doesn't want to stay when I'm. Actually, he's in the corner. He just got off the bed. I don't know if you saw it. He was
No,
in
I didn't.
he was in the lower left. Just got into there in the shot. Anyway, he's a union dog, so he gets paid. Anyway, eighth consecutive day, Joe. I'm wearing a sweatshirt because actually I'm genuinely kind of cold and I don't have the air conditioning on. It got to, believe it or not, the high today was 88. Okay. But right now what is it now? 73. So the temperature's already fallen. And this morning I woke up, it was 52 was my low. And in fact, at 10 o'clock this morning, it was still only 62. That's how long it's, now this time of year with the sun kind of getting lower in the sky, the mountains are cutting it off so I don't get the heating like I usually do, say in July. But 8 days in a row. I'll see if I can make it 9 days in a row tonight.
You're working on a nice little streak, aren't you?
Yes. And you didn't see anything. I don't think you did, but they got. I saw one of my friends, my friend Mike Panici, put up a video of the thunderstorm. He's down in on the South Shore in Suffolk County, and he had hail, and I'm talking some rather long. I don't know. I couldn't judge. It wasn't trying to think of what, probably at least dime size hail. When some of those thunderstorms that rolled through Connecticut today, not a good place to have thunderstorms after what the folks there went through. But those New England thunderstorms under that upper low really, really blossomed out.
Yeah, it was interesting that the Storm Prediction Center, where they blocked out the severe thunderstorm watch, it ended right at the New York-Connecticut border. In other words, you could have traveled from Putnam or Westchester County and had officially no watch in effect. As soon as you crossed over into Connecticut, boom, there was this thunderstorm watch, and for much of New England, and also for a portion of Long Island, where the watch was in effect. And there was some pretty, as they say down south, Joe, there was some pretty good possum pounders this afternoon.
Yeah. What was unusual with these, because they were rotating on the backside of an upper low, sitting up in Maine, and these storms came down from north to south. You don't see that very often, but when you do see a situation like this where they are coming down from north to south, and there's basically no sea breeze at play, you you get some really, really big thunderstorms.
Well, it's kind of like, it's almost like a pattern that you would sometimes see, let's say, in the springtime, in April, where you have what this very intense low top convection, and what some of the forecasters used to refer to as hailers. You get these storms that develop and drop, these pea or pebble sized hailstones, and yeah, it can be quite nasty. Really, don't underplay the fact that it's getting dark. We'll get maybe a rumble of thunder. Some of these could be really, and need I tell you, if you lived out in parts of Long Island and Connecticut today, that some of this activity can be just downright nasty.
Well, most of it is done. There's still a few stray cells here and there on the radar. We're going to take a look at that. And it kind of looks like tomorrow should be a mainly clean day as far as thunderstorms are concerned for eastern Pennsylvania, southern New England. That will not be the case over the Great Lakes and the northern parts of the Ohio Valley. And Wednesday, as we said last night, that as you might recall, Joe, I predicted that SPC would start the ball rolling on their day three forecast with a slight risk for Wednesday. And just by sheer coincidence, again, they got the slight risk up for Wednesday.
They got the memo from Joe and Joe.
Well, they certainly are because they're avid watchers in the background. I'm sure everything just stops Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. and that they lie in mourning that we're not on Fridays and Saturdays as per um, uh, Mr. Reuben Fairchild. So, who of course has disappeared. He probably went back to school. That's why he's not watching the show. So you know what? Let's go right to what's on the radar at the moment. And I'm sorry. Can you pull up, if you don't mind, Joe? Could you pull up the Upton radar, and I'll switch over to you in a moment,
Yeah,
if you could please. And I will. Let me just get the share button turned on for you, which it is. But here's the wide view, and the cells now are offshore, but there's actually a couple of thunderstorms that are moving into northeastern New Jersey that are moving from north to south. But you clearly see how these are definitely moving north to south. The upper low is sitting somewhere in Maine, and you've got this short wave that's just sort of rotating around it. Most of this stuff is going to disappear, if not all of it, in the next couple of hours. But Joe could get you a little closer, and then maybe you want to check out Boston after that because there's some stuff going on in southern New Hampshire, Mr. Rayo. There you go.
yeah. This is. I usually put this up at a 3 hour loop, but I put 4 hours here because I wanted to show everybody some of these really. They're rather small, but they were also very concentrated, very intense thunderstorms. These cells of precipitation passing across portions of central and southwestern Connecticut, across Long Island Sound, and on into central Long Island. And you're right, Joe. They're beginning to kind of fade out now. Now, here's where I am. If you could see the arrow, the cursor is pointing to the approximate location where I am. All of these storms seem to have avoided me. They seem to be on the other side of the Hudson, across ports of Orange County and into northwestern New Jersey. But while it did look rather threatening for a time here this afternoon, we didn't get a drop of rain. Again, all of the activity was just off to the west across the river. But if you lived to the east of me, again, over in parts of Fairfield County in Connecticut, here you see these storms that were drifting north to south across the state. And again, some of these were really rather nasty. But again, most of the really bad activity was taking place to the north and to the east of New York. You can see when the loop starts right across southern and central sections of Rhode Island. They got a pretty good hammering this afternoon. And you wanted to see Boston. Let's see what the Boston people are looking at, or were looking at. Yeah, you could see it stretched out from southern Vermont across the Berkshires of western Massachusetts on into Connecticut and further south, crossing through portions of Rhode Island and also into central and eastern sections of Long Island. Some rather nasty cells of precipitation. Here's a band that was coming on down through New Hampshire and down East Maine, and another area, rather heavy activity, which when the loop starts was apparently over Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket and moved on south and east out over the open waters of the ocean. So there was some pretty good activity going on today across New England. And tomorrow looks like it's going to be a quiet day, and it will rev up everything in time for Wednesday, because Wednesday looks like a very active weather day here.
It does indeed. So we got some more. Since I'm on the radar, I'm going to go back to the wide view, and we're kind of zoomed in here on Minnesota and the Dakotas, and you can see there's two clusters of thunderstorms with an array of severe thunderstorm warnings approaching Minneapolis. There's a area of very strong thunderstorms there moving eastward. They should be in the Minneapolis area in about 30 to 45 minutes. Uh, right now it's 7:49 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're watching this later and you're in Minneapolis and you're thinking that the thunderstorms are approaching. If you're watching at midnight, they'll probably be long gone by then because we're live now, but you'll be watching us on a replay. There's another cluster with a line of storms in the western half of South Dakota with a few severe thunderstorm warnings there. But this is all part of an area that's got an enhanced risk of severe weather. And then a smaller cluster in northeastern Nebraska that's producing a few severe thunderstorm warnings. And then we've got what looks like a long line from southwest Nebraska and western Kansas into southeast Colorado and crossing New Mexico on a diagonal. Downpours and thunderstorms, some flash flood warning in the green boxes. The yellow box that you see in northwest Kansas is a severe thunderstorm warning. So it's pretty busy on the in the radars out in the plains, and we've got some rain and some heavier rains coming in to the northwest corner of Washington state and then pushing further north into Vancouver. The Storm Prediction Center, the Severe Thunderstorm Watch is done for southern New England and Long Island and southeastern New England. However, we've got three severe thunderstorm watches up in southern Minnesota, actually, a fourth one. There were four, now there are three. So the fourth one in Minnesota, the one that's further northwest, is disappearing. There's another one to its southeast, covering Minneapolis and the southeastern and southern part of the state. Another one that extends from there westward into northeast Nebraska, and then the third one that goes all the way to the Wyoming state line. So this is all slight to enhanced risk, and the marginal risk that goes down into southern Colorado, southeast Colorado, southwestern Kansas. Now, for tomorrow, everything moves along to the east. So tomorrow we've got a slight risk across Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, northern Ohio, Michigan. Marginal risk extends into western New York on one side and southwestward into parts of Nebraska and Kansas on the other. There's a 2% tornado risk across central and northern Wisconsin and central and northern Michigan. And day three, this forecast was updated this afternoon and it was not changed. But we've got a slight risk already indicated for much of southern and southeastern New York, Connecticut, southern Massachusetts, to about the Rhode Island state line, west southwestward, including Long Island, the northern half of New Jersey, all of Pennsylvania, northernmost Maryland, northernmost West Virginia, much of Ohio, and into southeastern Michigan, all inside that slight risk zone, marginal risk down to southern Virginia, northeastern Kentucky, southern Indiana, and southern Illinois. Also a marginal to slight risk up in the Dakotas. Now, as far as rain is concerned, rainfall, and we'll probably have another front coming on Saturday. So rainfall amounts anywhere from a quarter of an inch, which you see in the coastal areas, coastal plain from Maine down to southern New England. Then you get to half to three quarters, and even some inch and a half amounts in the Appalachians. Also on the Canada side of New York State, a large area of half to three quarters that backs into Wisconsin and Minnesota. Um, Half to three quarters with patches of an inch and a half in Virginia and North Carolina, and almost down to me in North Georgia. Otherwise, a quarter to a half an inch across much of the Gulf states, except right along the immediate Gulf Coast of Louisiana and Texas on the coastal bend, where we're seeing several inches or more. And then rainfall amounts extend up to an inch and a half going back into New Mexico. Not a whole lot in the west, except for maybe up in the far northwest and into Canada, where there's about a half to three quarter of an inch area indicated there. So Wednesday. So let's look at the upper air for Wednesday. And I think what I'm going to do is, Mr. Rayo, is I'm going to use, I always like to look at the 700 millibar vorticity and wind to take a look at what it looks like as far as the jet streaks are concerned. So you can see what's going on tonight and tomorrow. You've got all these jet streaks tonight up in the Dakotas and back through to the Wyoming state line and into Nebraska, down into eastern Colorado. So that's usually indicative of some shear going on and some stronger thunderstorms. Tomorrow, all that shear, and there's one solid line of it moving out of Minnesota into Wisconsin and into the Great Lakes. So that is where we've got our risk zone for tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, not sure. I mean, there's some with the yellow streaks that you see here across New York State and into Massachusetts and Connecticut, but I'm not seeing those dark streaks here on the GFS anyway. Let me see if what the NAM has got. Sometimes the short range models are usually a bit better with this, but this is for Wednesday. You got some jet streaks that moved through early Wednesday up in New England. That's probably some sort of a warm front. And there you go. There are a few of those little darker spots there that you see across Pennsylvania and New York State during Wednesday evening into Wednesday night. So that would be indicative of what could possibly be some stronger thunderstorm development with that. I mean, I've seen better looking short waves than this. It's not the most impressive short wave in the world, but there is a solid kink there in the upper flow indicate that there is some severe weather risk to deal with.
Yes, and remember the temperatures are going to be getting up on Wednesday, probably to at least 90. Maybe some folks will be up at 95. The dew point temperatures are going to be up probably at or around 70. That is the recipe. That is an air mass right there. You really don't need all that much forcing to produce some rather hefty convection, heavy thunderstorms. And some of the storms I noticed on SPC discussion for Wednesday could be of the type that produce damaging winds and hail. So it doesn't look pretty. If you're going to be around and out and about in the afternoon and the first half of Wednesday night, that'll be the time frame, the key frame for the potential for getting nailed by either a heavy downpour, if you will, or possibly a locally strong thunderstorm. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the 3 kilometer NAM, which I mean I don't know how useful this is, as it really didn't show very much for this afternoon and evening, and it doesn't. I mean, doesn't really show much for Wednesday. I wasn't really particularly impressed. Oh, here we go, Tuesday to Wednesday now. Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't show much for Wednesday at all. But these short range models have been having some problems lately. Finally, Wednesday night, you start to see it, the last frame was sort of imply, at least from the NAM3, that thunderstorms would not get in until sometime, after dark.
After dark.
And I don't know if that's correct, but it might be, that even the GFS kind of holds it up a little bit till the early evening hours.
Well, something could pop in the afternoon out of nowhere. So
Right.
you always have to be prudent and just throw it in just to be
Oh,
safe.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, here's my question, and I'll see how you handle this. So, this front comes through. It's actually not a half bad looking cold front that comes through. and it drops southward, and it looks like it stalls out somewhere across Virginia into western North Carolina or eastern Kentucky, somewhere in there. And you've got this high coming down that goes into eastern Canada and then over Maine and then over Nova Scotia. So you've got, what appears to be, at least on Thursday, is an onshore flow that sets up. And in fact, the GFS at least does have, actually has some rain Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning into the afternoon over New Jersey and the South Shore of Long Island before it disappears and pushes southward. So my question is, you know, I kind of went with a cloudy-ish day for Thursday, with maybe some leftover early showers more to the south and to the north, and that maybe in areas north of New York City could see some improvement during Thursday afternoon. Some of that as that high starts to push southward. I mean, I'm not sure how you handled it. Because you and I never
I,
talked
I was
before the show.
struggling. I was struggling with the possibility of mentioning some shower activity, especially early in the day on Thursday. I finally just said to myself, "All right, I'm just going to say early clouds." So kind of a cloudyish, kind of a semi-dreary start to the day, but gradually as drier air filters in, giving way to developing sunshine. Certainly, it'll be a cooler and somewhat less humid day as opposed to what we're going to see on Wednesday. Remember, I said on Wednesday, 90, maybe 95, dew points up near 70. And on Thursday, even if the dew points drop only, he says, to around 60 by the afternoon, that's still a good 10 degrees lower than what you had the day before. And again, depending upon, as you just mentioned, Joe, the direction of the wind, um, there could be some leftover moisture that translates into some cloud cover, but it'll be a day of slow improvement or gradual improvement on Thursday. And that should lead us into a very nice Friday. I think for Getaway Friday, because again, remember, it's a holiday weekend coming up, Labor Day holiday weekend. Looks like to me sunny to maybe partly cloudy. The clouds probably would be of the fair weather cumulus variety. Pleasant enough. Temperatures on Friday probably be somewhere in the mid 70s. And then for the weekend, looks kind of showery on Saturday with the next weather disturbance moving in. Hopefully, the last of the showers exit early on Sunday and give us more in the way of developing sun by the afternoon. And hopefully, that also means that Labor Day will be on Monday with nice weather. Well, of course, it's going to be on Monday. Labor Day is
No,
never on any day, is
I'm
it?
sh- I'm rolling the dew point map here. And by the way, you'll notice that there's this patch of this area down in the Tennessee Valley, and to me, for tonight and tomorrow, where the dew points are down in the 50s. But no matter. With this push for Thursday, the further north you go into upstate New York and New England, no issue. I mean, the dew points are just going to plummet down to even the 40s when you, especially north of I-90. And then Friday, it looks like those lower dew points kind of make it down to southeastern Pennsylvania and maybe to about central or it might not be pushed far enough south. Maybe some of that dry air bleeds down even into southern New Jersey. But you're right. I think Friday could certainly turn out to be a fairly pleasant day. And of course, Thursday, it'll probably be a day where temperatures struggle, depending on how much cloud cover. So some places might be upper 60s to mid 70s as a range, depending on how much cloud cover you got. And then Saturday, the dew points pop up again. We get into the 60s, and it looks to me that we're probably going to have some kind of secondary front that's going to have to come through sometime late Sunday or Sunday night to get into really nice dew points for Labor Day and for next week. I mean, they got 30 dew points, Joe, pushing into parts of upstate New York by on Labor Day, way up in upstate New York. But the 40 dew points get down into Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and even into West Virginia, and almost to me for the first part of next week. So,
Yeah, I mean, that second front is going to carry the really meaningful drop in dew point temperatures. I mean, it should turn semi decent for Sunday, but the really nice dew point, the really nice dry conditions probably will hold up and wait until after that second front moves on through. either Sunday night or first thing on Monday morning. Next Monday morning, Labor Day morning.
And I'm going to pull up the Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies. At least I'm going to try to pull up the Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies. And one thing that's happened here that we really haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to is, yes, the area in the tropical Atlantic temperature water temperatures are still above normal, but they actually have come off their highs by quite a bit. And when you look at the actual water temperatures just north of the Cabo Verde Islands, they're kind of, they're below 77, which is, kind of use that maybe as a threshold for where you could have a tropical cyclone. You're not going to get much of a hurricane with 77 or 78-degree water temperatures, but you certainly could have a tropical storm. But there's been apparently, and I read there have been a couple of articles running around of an Atlantic La Nina type pattern, and that now when I read this article that I read said that, um, you always have to kind of roll your eyes when you hear a phrase like scientists are concerned. Okay. And apparently these scientists are concerned about they use the phrase rapidly falling sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic because they can't figure out why that's happened. Um, so, I mean, I'm looking at this anomaly map and it says, okay, I don't know what the actual numbers are in terms of where they were at their peaks. It does seem to be that particularly in the tropical Atlantic, that it's not quite as above normal as it was maybe a few weeks ago. Uh,
And don't forget,
but
they were ballyhooing this as probably the most active hurricane season since 2005. I mean, they said, oh, between the extremely warm, abnormally warm ocean waters in the Atlantic Basin and the Caribbean, and the fact it's a La Nina year, oh my goodness, and here we are. We've managed to get all the way up to the E, Ernesto, but we haven't
right,
gone any than that. So really, it's now. It may very well be that when we get into September, things will start flying left and right in terms of tropical cyclone activity. But so far, a very quiet season. I haven't had a chance really to sit down and see when was the last time, Joe, that we actually had a Labor Day without any kind of a tropical system anywhere in the Caribbean or the Atlantic. But this might just be the year.
yeah. I mean, it does happen every once in a while. I don't think it's a rare event. I can remember a few of them back in the 80s and 90s where there wasn't any tropical systems around on Labor Day, but you had a lot of them on either side, so it depends. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, a couple other things I just want to make note of is the fact that in the mid latitudes, um, right up here, but not quite to, like, say, from eastern New England on eastward out in the Atlantic to about the Azores. There's a pretty big warm pool there, and it looks like the waters, say, in the Bay of Fundy and surrounding Newfoundland, are way above normal as far as water temperatures are concerned. So that's kind of interesting. And then there's this little pocket between Bermuda, close to Bermuda, that's below normal. I know that could be upwelling, what's left of upwelling because Ernesto just went through there. And in the Pacific, you kind of have this, the pattern of below normal sea surface temperatures is something you would see in a developing La Nina. I don't know if it's reached their threshold yet, but I mean, if it has, it's on the weakish side. But I was kind of interested in the other thing that struck me too is the fact that in the North Pacific, the water temperatures are on fire in the North Pacific and extending into Northeast Pacific. Now that could be something to look at in a couple of months if it's still there, because a lot of times when the ocean water temperatures in the Northeast Pacific are way above normal, you get a nice ridge, and that's that negative East Pacific oscillation signal. If you get a nice ridge in there and up into northwestern Canada, but that's a wintertime conversation that I really don't want to get into at this stage of the game. The other thing is, Joe, on the recent run of the GFS, anyway, if you the ensembles have been of both models have been sort of hinting that maybe something down the road is going to try and form. The actual operational runs haven't really been able to do anything, but this particular run does have something closing off in the tropical Atlantic late this week and moving westward and becoming a tropical storm, crossing the southern leewards, northern windwards, and then it sort of goes up over Puerto Rico, and then it heads north, northeast, and northward from there. And this one passes. Let's see how close it gets to Bermuda. Because unless you're in Wilmington, North Carolina, Bermuda, or Nova Scotia, nobody else on the East Coast gets hurricanes. At least that's been the case in recent years. Uh, Now, this one makes a pretty close pass to Bermuda and then heads out northeast from there. So it does do something. This would be after Labor Day, by the way, on this run. And then it also tries to develop something in the eastern Gulf of Mexico sometime around September. So this would be, we're talking about September 5th to September 9th. So again, it's here on this run. It may be gone in the next. I think odds probably favor that it would be gone in the next, but you know, one of these broken clocks is going to be right
Yeah,
at some point.
yeah. Eventually,
All right.
eventually.
So
Well, did you actually think
here,
that we weren't going to have any? Did you actually think, folks, that we weren't going to have any tropical systems or tropical storms or hurricanes in the upcoming month of September? It's quiet now.
yeah.
We'll see how active it gets in the days to come.
All right. So we've got our front for Wednesday, and you see it here coming down from the northwest again. And of course, the winds go from westerly, west or west southwest ahead of it to northeast behind it. And then Saturday, we get what looks like a wave that develops on the front that goes way underneath us, south and east. But gradually, the flow turns more southerly. We got another front that approaches Saturday night with some showers and thunderstorms. And there's a secondary front that you see there for Sunday night. So I guess the best way to look at this as far as the Labor Day holiday weekend goes, for the Northeast anyway, and maybe down into the mid-Atlantic states too, is that most of the time it won't be raining, but you are going to run into shower and thunderstorm risk at some point. Late Saturday and Saturday night, and maybe again late Sunday into Sunday night as a sort of dry line goes by, the secondary front, and then in comes the big high with the dry air for much of the eastern United States for Labor Day and going into the, it always seems like in most years that a switch gets flipped on the last days of August, and suddenly you get these like nice dry air masses that come down for the beginning of September.
Yeah, that secondary front looks like it is going to be making its way through the tri state area just at the right time. That is, right around daybreak. I mean, you don't want to have a front like that coming through, let's say, sometime between 3 and 10 o'clock in the afternoon and evening. That would generate almost certainly a severe weather threat. Um, probably, probably, Joe, there'll be a severe weather threat Sunday across western and central New York. But by the time the thunderstorms reach us, if they're still holding together, they will be either minimal or maybe even not even there at all. So Sunday we could eke out a fairly nice day, but watch again for Sunday night with that second front, and then get ready for what really looks like. I mean, my goodness, next Monday, of course, Labor Day, and that's such an extensive high pressure zone that's going to be building in. That looks like it could last maybe right on through Wednesday or Thursday of next week before any significant changes going to happen. So, of course, naturally, the week that most people think about taking a week off from work or school, the week after uh, the week after Labor Day. But
Yeah.
there you go. You want some great weather? That looks like to be the case for next
Well, I
week.
mean, we just had a gorgeous air mass last week,
Right.
and now we're getting another one. Maybe that's going to be the trend going forward. Fronts moving through on a regular basis, big highs coming down on a regular basis. Works for me.
Yeah. Well, it looks like again. It doesn't look like that big high is going to reach the immediate New York area until sometime maybe midday or late day on Wednesday of next week, and then it goes offshore. We get into the return flow, and maybe it'll start turning humid here you know, on Thursday or Friday of next week. But by then, we've gone through several days of great weather. What more can you ask for?
Yep. Yeah, Briller Jeopardy.
Yes, I do.
You do.
I
Well,
do.
let's have at it then.
We're going to get it. We are going to get it. You're going to get it. And let's see what Mr. Briller. Mr. Briller
No,
sent this morning at 10:48 a.m. And it is the Joe Jeopardy, Briller Jeopardy average high temperatures in August as we did it yesterday. We'll do it again today for foreign cities. That is, cities that are not in the United States. Those of you who are.
most foreign cities aren't in the United
Yeah,
States.
that's right.
Last I
How about,
checked.
how about city number one, Copenhagen or Hagen?
Copenhagen,
Yes.
I'll say 74.
Not quite. It's a little bit on the warm side for.
But on the warm side,
Where's a
uh,
Copenhagen?
what?
It was a
That
Copenhagen.
right. William Uber and Bella Lugrisi say 72. Vincent Croce and Patrick Darcy say 71.
Rich Rotmansky also said 71. And for everyone
71.
one, that's Snake Country.
Okay. William Uber said 72, so it's obviously that the answer is 70.
And that is correct. 70 degrees.
70.
Now let's move to a place that is in Ontario, but more famously in the United Kingdom, London.
London? Hmm.
London, England.
Late August. I'll take a stab. I'll say 72.
Oh, well, a little bit on the coolish side. A good guess, Joe.
Oh, it's higher than that?
Jason Fox says 73, then that puts him in Snake Country.
And so does Chuck Cardillo and Mike Waterhouse, all at 73. So clearly, William Uber is going to be correct at 74.
William Huber and Vincent Croce, congratulations, you're it at 74 degrees. And now, this one was donated by Vladimir Putin, Moscow.
Hmm.
Moscow.
Well, they're buried so deep in the interior, so that's kind of a that's a tough one because it's sort of like in the Dakotas where it could go to 100. Not that I don't know if Moscow gets that warm, but I'm just saying it's sort of like one of these places where it could get hot in the summertime, but get really, really bitter in the winter. I'll say I'm going to say 72.
Joe, the El Snako is in your backyard.
All right. Well, Paul Roman said 73.
That's a little bit
That's
on
the other way. So the answer is I don't see any 71s.
a lot of 70. Rich Rotmansky, 72.
Mike Waterhouse has 70.
8. Christopedia, 75. Jason Fox, 66. A lot of you really went for some cool temperatures for Moscow, but
Uh,
Moscow's really
Chuck Cardillo, the Latex Dreams, Mike Waterhouse, Tyler Fienga, Rich, all at 71. Is it 71?
71. Yes.
Mhm.
How about Oslo in Norway?
Norway? No
Yes.
way. Um, hmm. Oslo, Norway.
We already have
Land
a
of,
winner.
Land of the Midnights at 69.
Missed by one, Joe, and Michael McGuire got it right on the nose with 68.
Oh, Miss Fowlerite, Patrick Darcy also both had 68.
Craig
Oh,
and Frank R.
and Frank R. and William Uber. Okay, what's the next one?
My grandfather's hometown, Naples, Italy. Napoli.
Hmm. It's warm in southern Italy. Uh,
I think Naples is in northern Italy, isn't it?
no, it's in southern Italy.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
It's south of Rome, way south of Rome. I'll say 80. I'll say 88.
Are you doing that just on
Just to
behalf?
annoy you, yes, 88.
Well, you were 1 degree shy.
Okay, so it's either 87 or 89. Uh, Trying to see if anybody on the chat board. Christina Pedius at 87.
And guess
Uh,
what?
it's 87.
87. Now, I don't understand this. This is
Okay.
supposed to be, these are foreign cities, and yet the bonus city is certainly not foreign. Well, it may seem foreign because it's so far away, but the bonus city is Barrow.
Oh, in Alaska?
Yeah.
This is, you know what? Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't want Barrow. I'll say, and I have no clue. Honestly, I have absolutely no clue. It does get warmish up there in the summertime, so it is August. They still have more daylight than nighttime. So I'll say Northern Grace said 55. I'm going to go with what Northern Grace has, double nickels.
Sorry, but we do have a bunch of winners here. We have Rich Rothmansky and Frank Scalera and Patrick Darcy, and they all hit it
So
at
it was double fours.
double four.
All right, so I was in the double category anyway. I didn't know what to do to go that high, to go a little higher or go lower. I was thinking in the mid 40s, and then I said, yeah, maybe not. Yeah,
It's only going to get colder from there.
well, exactly. Exactly. Uh, all right. Well, that pretty much sums it up for tonight. I walked 7 miles today. So I'm tired, and I have a dentist appointment tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to have my teeth cleaned. I don't know
Uh,
if you do your
Great. Well, I have a dentist appointment, but it's not until October. So this is one time
okay.
when you're on the same page.
Well, this is a regular scheduled cleaning, so I don't count that as being attached at the hip. I go every 4 months for a cleaning.
Okay,
Do you go every six or every four?
every six.
Every six. No, I go every four.
Thank you, Latex Dreams, about my Bob Ross T-shirt, my happy little tree shirt.
Do you have um do you have the Bob Ross channel?
Yes, I do.
Because I have it too. It's like channel 4630 somewhere.
The only the only thing I don't like about the Bob Ross channel is that they
They
have
run
spot,
commercials for Blue Chew.
and so you might be like 10 or 15 minutes in the show and you're almost half asleep, and all of a sudden something comes blaring over, out of nowhere, like
By the way, we have those Bob. I showed you on Facebook down here. They have a Bob Ross group that meets, and it's a paintings, class. Bob Ross painting class. He
right.
comes back from the dead to do this class a couple of times a month. The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get that Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use that coupon code.
Summer 2024.
If you do, you will get.
You'll get you'll get a happy 10% off.
Tom Contino wants to know what he died of.
I believe leukemia.
It was
I believe
too
it was
bad. Too bad. How old was he?
about 53, 54.
That young?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's tragic. That's really young.
And I can't believe he's been gone for quite some time. He died in 95. So he's been gone.
Wow, really? That long ago? And his show
Yeah,
is still on the air.
yeah,
I mean, somewhere.
it's one of the most popular shows on public television.
I wonder, just out of curiosity, I wonder if the estate, because a lot of times some of these shows, the estate gets residuals depending on how he structured his stuff.
Well,
Um,
he signed a contract with, it was him, his wife, signing a contract with a woman by the name of Annette Kowalski and her husband. And when his wife died, when Bob Ross's wife died, all of a sudden he became a minority shareholder. And the Kowalskis, after Bob died, I mean, they're more or less, they had been raking in all the money from residuals from the programs and also from selling, books that were made by Bob Ross and everything else. So they really have been kind of like the villains, if you will.
yeah,
The
Christina Pedia says there's a show that that gets into what happened to Bob Ross and his money.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, if there was anybody who could have taken over for Bob Ross, it was his son, um, and he was a very good artist in his own right, and the Kowalskis more or less cut him out of it. You know, it's very sad,
Yeah,
very sad.
people do things, a lot of mean things when it comes, when money is concerned.
Also,
Oh,
very no, and they weren't related to Killer. Vincent Kowalski says, "Were the Kowalskis related to Killer?" No, not Killer
Killer
Kowalski.
Kowalski.
The
Um,
really sad thing about today was the fact that at midnight last night, WCBS News Radio 88 became no more. And Joe, if you haven't had a chance to see it, if any of you want to go on my Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather, on Facebook, I posted earlier today, courtesy of Charlie Kay, who was an executive producer for many years at CBS News, the last 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes of the station. It was signed off last night by Wayne Cabot, a longtime news anchor at News Radio 88. And Joe, the last sound you heard, um, Wayne Cabot said, and now for the last time, boom,
I was gonna,
boom, boom. And when they got to that fourth tone, I lost it. Forget about it. It
yeah,
was
they could have said, "Say goodbye to WCBS. Four tones will follow. The fourth and final tone marks the time we go off the air." You
yeah,
know, but the voice, I would have liked to have, it's too bad they couldn't. Obviously the original person who did all the voiceovers that we used to hear as kids. I don't know if I'm sure they probably played some of that stuff over the weekend.
oh yes,
Uh,
they did. Yeah,
and I kind of felt like, to be truthful, I mean, I kind of felt today, when I'm thinking about it, when I woke up this morning, it's that 88 was gone. That I sort of felt like you feel when like the day after a funeral of a family member, and
yes,
you kind of sort of sit through the wake for however many, hopefully it's not 3 days, but you have the wake and then you have the funeral, and you're completely exhausted when it's over with, and you just sort of kind of at that point where it's like, okay, it's over, now we can move forward, but there's such a gaping hole. It was so, 58 years. You and I both remember the day it came on the air, in 1966, when the radio tower, the plane that crashed into the radio tower, and then they changed formats and all the rest of it. Yeah, it was just it was such an automatic. Listen to it every day in the car. You listen to it at home. My mother used to have it on in the morning before everybody went to school to make sure, so we get the temperature and all the rest and all that stuff. Yeah,
it
it's
was.
another
It's
piece of history that goes, and pretty soon you're going to see, you know, the legacy networks are all going to one by one, they're all going to disappear. CBS, ABC, NBC, they're all going, I mean, they'll survive, but there'll be nothing. The name might survive, but they're not going to be anything like what it was.
I was when they got to the final ping and Wayne Cabot said for the last time, "This is WCBS." Boom, 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 and when they got to the fourth ping, you heard him say New York, and then there was silence. There was nothing. It was everything was it was gone.
Did
And this morning,
the news station come on the air immediately
oh yeah,
afterward or no?
because my car,
WHSQ or something?
yeah, whatever it is, my car was preset, always was set to 880. And this morning, Renata said that I had to. She wanted me to move the SUV, my car out, which is what I did. I pulled it out of the garage, and then I said, "Oh, I wonder." And I flicked on the radio. Up came 880, and here is this loud, annoying voice, Joe. This loud, annoying voice that says, and also, Aaron Judge is on a route to get over 62 home runs. Now, what do you think? And I just shut it right off because
So
now it,
New York now has three sports radio channels on AM, correct? There's
that's correct. We have one
right
at FAN
FAN and WHN 1050,
and
right?
50.
And now you have 88 because they really needed a third. They really needed a third radio station
But we don't
for all
have
the
enough.
sports.
We don't have enough of those 24/7 sports talk shows where who the heck at 2:30 in the morning is going to talk about why Edwin Diaz should have come in the ninth inning to save the ball game from the Mets.
All the sports shows that are on, right? When I flip on the channel, flip around on on DirecTV stream, and I'm running through the 200s where they have all the sports channel. I am proud to say that in all these many years, and even when it was before streaming and with cable, I have never actually sat down and watched a single sports TV program. And I will continue to not watch a single sports TV program. I mean, I'll watch I might watch a football game and all the rest of it, but I'm not, I can't imagine sitting all day watching, you know, talking hours and hours about one game and then going on to the next, the next game. Let's talk for hours and hours about the next game before the next game starts. And then you
Yeah,
have the game. And then after the game is over, they talk for hours and hours about the new glass game. And then on it, and just this, it's all garbage to me. I mean, it's just crap. It's all crap.
I don't know if any of you had a chance to see the yesterday, Joe. ABC, there was the Little League World Series. It was the championship game between China and South Florida, and the game went into extra innings. I mean, to see these two teams composed of kids 11, 12, 13 years old, playing their heart out, trying to win the championship. It went into the eighth inning, and in the bottom of the eighth inning, with Florida at bat, there was a runner on second base, nobody out, and the batter for Florida. Of course, in this situation, you're trying to bunt the guy on second over to third, move him over. And he did. He on the first pitch, he bunted down the first base line. The pitcher came running off the mound to grab the ball from China. And without even thinking, he threw to first base. It was a beautiful throw to first base, except for one problem. There was nobody covering first base, and so the ball went into right field. The kid from China, the pitcher, as soon as he threw the ball and saw what happened, he went like this. And meanwhile, the kid from Florida is running on third base, scoring the winning run. They're jumping up and down, the Florida team. The Chinese kids are like standing there in shock. A couple of them start to cry. And then one of the great pieces of sportsmanship I ever saw, you'll never see this in the major leagues, but the kids from Florida seeing this, a lot of them came running over to the kids from China and consoled them and said, good game, and congratulations. It was really great. And I'm saying to myself, man, if I was on that China team, those poor kids, that's going to be a long, long flight back to China after that eighth inning where the kid just threw, especially for the kid who threw the ball out into right field. It was a great. Had there been somebody at first base, the kid who did the bunt would have been out automatically. But it was one of those things. Very sad.
Yeah.
Renata was in the kitchen. She wasn't watching, but as soon as the kid threw the ball past, was like, you heard me go, "Oh no!" You really felt for the
Yeah.
China on that. So
Well, I think I found it. So I think we'll say goodnight with the last. I have the last minute of. I think I have it queued correctly. I hope I do. The last minute of last night's WCBS News Radio 88 broadcast. So in case you missed it, I'm going to play it right now.
What's
And
the song? Somebody please tell me. I'm not a big rock fan. It's obviously a John Lennon song that Wayne Cabot chose as the backdrop. And Imagine, Imagine. Thank you,
mhm.
Krishnapedia. Yeah, great song.
Okay. Let me see if this is it. And if it is, we say goodnight and we'll see you tomorrow. This is the last 60 seconds. So I think I got it queued
New York
correctly.
City during morning rush hour traffic. And he introduced me to the place I'm now signing off in 2024. Ray Martell, here's your last request. Chris Olivero, Ben Meverek, Ivan Lee, our bosses pushed for and got the authority to let us have our goodbyes, to have a last show. That's something very rare. I thank them for that. And I thank my dad for driving me into New York City in 1978. Parents, you never know what impact these random acts of love and attention may have on your children. I'm Wayne Cabot, and for the final time, this is WCBS.